Aho, mitakuye, I say. Hello, all my relations. How y'all doing? My name is the Lucky Coyote, and today we are going to be reading some more. Mostly of the Canterbury Tales. If I finish early, I might switch over to some Lovecraft. So, hope y'all enjoy that. Sorry, the model paused there for a second at the beginning. So, let's get to it. Hey, Lovecraft spooky shit after some very old stuff. All right. It's not on. This tale is titled Second Nun's Tale. There we are. Smut. You're medieval smut. Medieval English smut. The Second Nun's Tale. The Second Nun's Prologue. That nourisher and servant to our vices, known in our English tongue as idleness, the portress at the gateway that entices to self-abandonment we should oppress, by her own contrary, a measureless and lawful industry with all our power, lest the fiend snatch us in an idle hour. For he with many a cunning cord and bridle continually watches us to clap all whomsoever of us that are idle and easy to be taken in his trap. Not till a man is tossed into his lap does he perceive the fiend let us be loth to slacken in our work and yield to sloth. And though we dreaded not what is to be, that is, our death, reason would teach us keep from idleness that rots in sluggardy, from whence no harvest comes, which none can reap. We see that sloth can leash us in a sleep, to pass the time in sleeping, eating, drinking, devouring other people's work, unthinking. So to put all such idleness away, the cause of so much ruin and stagnation, I have, as diligently as I may, followed the legend in my own translation, touching thy sufferings and exultation. Made of thy garlands, rose and lily laden, Cecilia, thine, O martyr, saint, and maiden. Invocatio ad Miriam. And thou that art the flower of virgins all, of whom Saint Bernard had such skill to write, to thee at my beginning first I call, comfort of sinners, teach me to indite thy maiden's death, who put the fiend to flight, and won by merit an eternal glory, as all may find in following her story. Thou maid and mother, daughter of thy Son, thou well of mercy, balm to sinful nature, in whom God chose his dwelling, as in one, humblest and brightest over every creature, who gave us such nobleness to human feature, that God had no disdain to clothe and wind his Son in flesh and blood of humankind. Within the blissful cloister of thy womb, there took man's shape the eternal love and peace, Lord and guide of the triennial circle, whom the heavens and earth and sea shall never cede, to glorify pure virgin the increase, of whose fair body, never by man mated, was the creator of all things created. In thee assembled are magnificence, mercy, and goodness, with such clemency, that thou, who art the Son of excellence, not only helpest those that pray to thee, but many a time in thy benignity thou goest before them freely ere they speak, O leech of life, and grantest what they seek. Help me then, fair and meek and blissful maid, me, banished in the desert, in the street of Gaul, remember who was not afraid to say in Cana, lo, the dogs may eat the crumbles that fall about their master's feet. Though I be an unworthy son of Eve, accept me for my faith, for I believe. Since faith is dead, that does not live in works, O therefore give me power to work apace. Save me from darkness and the fiend that lurks in darkness, O thou fair and full of grace. Be thou my advocate in that high place, where endlessly the angels sing Hosanna, Mother of Christ, dear daughter of Saint Anna. Shed thou thy light upon my soul in prison, troubled by the contagion of the flesh, weighted down by lusts of earth that have arisen, of false affection tangled in their mesh. Heaven of refuge, O salvation fresh, and comforting to all by sorrow shaken, help me in that which I have undertaken. And you, all that you read what I shall write, forgive me if I show no diligence to ornament my story or indite a subtle style. I take the words and sense from one who held in holiest reverence the saint of whom he wrote, and tell her tale, begging you to amend it where I fail. Interpretatio nominis Cisalie. First, let me tell you whence her name has sprung. Cecilia, meaning, as the books agree, lily of heaven in our English tongue, to signify her chaste virginity, or for the whiteness of her constancy, the greenness of her conscience of her fame. The scent of sweetness, lily was her name. Cecilia may betoken path to the blind, from the example given in her story, or in Cecilia some would have us find a union, as it were, of heaven glory, and Leah, the active life in allegory. Heaven is set for thoughts of holiness, and Leah for ceaseless labor and address. Cecilia may be also said to mean wanting in blindness, as she had the light of sapience and a bearing calm and clean, or as the maiden was beloved and bright, to say from heaven and Leos would be right, and mean a heaven for people, so to call the good example of her works to all. For Leos means people in the English tongue, and just as one may look to heaven and see the sun and moon and where the stars are hung, so in this maiden spiritually we see her faith and magnanimity, and the whole clarity of her wisdom thence in many works of shining excellence. And just as these philosophers will write to prove that heaven is swift and round and burning, just so was fair Cecilia the White, as swift and ceaseless turning and returning to works of mercy and round in her discerning, and perseverance burning with the flame of charity, and so I read her name. The Second Nun's Tale. This maiden, bright Cecilia, so I read, was Roman born and came of noble breed, noble kind, and from her cradle fostered in the creed of Christ, and bore his gospel in her mind. She never ceased in prayer, or so I find it written of her, to God in love and dread, beseeching him to guard her maidenhead. And when this maid was given to a man in wedlock, he was young and bore the name, our legend tells us, of Valerian. Upon the day of marriage, when it came, she was devout and humble still the same. For there beneath her robe of golden mesh, she wore a shirt of hair upon her flesh. And while the organs made their melody, to God alone within her heart there sounded this prayer: Lord, keep my soul and body free from all defilement, lest I be confounded. On him who died upon a tree she grounded her faith in love, and every second day, or every third, she fasted and would pray. Yet the night came, and she must go to bed beside her husband, as is oft the way, and turning to him privately, she said, Sweet and beloved husband, if I may, there is a thing I dearly wish to say. If you will hear, and yet I will conceal it, swear to me, then you'll never will reveal it. Firmly Valerian on his honor swore, that for no cause, whatever it might be, would he betray her. He could say no more. And she began to speak. I have, said she, a guardian angel, one that tenders me. So great a love, that whether awake or sleeping, my body is committed to his keeping. Were he to feel, and oh, believe it true, that you had touched me either in love or lust, he instantly would bring your death on you. Young as you are, you would go down to dust, but if you love me cleanly as you must, he will love you even more, even as he loves me, and show you the glory of his ecstasy. Valerian, corrected by God's grace, answered again, that I may trust in you, show me that angel, let me see his face, and if indeed he be an angel true, then I will do as you have begged me to do. But if you love another man, on oath, I say this sword of mine shall slay you both. Cecilia answered, You are well advised, and you shall see the angel if you will. But first believe in Christ and be baptized. Go by the Appian way, she said, until you reach some 3 miles hence upon a hill, a village where the poorer people live. Go up to them and speak the words I give. Tell them that I, Cecilia, sent you there, that they might show you Urban, old and good, for secret needs, and say your thoughts are fair. And when you meet Saint Urban as you should, repeat my words, they will be understood. And when he has confessed and purged your heart, you then shall see the angel ere you part. Valerian went out to seek the place, and just as she had told him, there he found holy Saint Urban, met him face to face, at work upon a Christian burial ground, and told him on what errand he was bound. And Urban, when his message had been given, was filled with joy and raised his hands to heaven. And from his eyes the tears began to fall. Almighty Lord, O Jesu Christ, said he, sower of chaste thought, shepherd of us all, take thou the fruit whose seed of chastity thou sowest in Cecilia unto thee. Lo, like a busy bee that knows no guile, thy thrall Cecilia serves thee all the while. Her very spouse, that she but now has taken, fierce as a lion, hither has she sent, meek as a lamb, his violence forsaken. For thee, dear Lord, now as he spoke there went a man before him clad in white and bent. With age a golden book was in his hand. Before Valerian he took his stand. Valerian fell down for very dread. On seeing him, he raised him from his fall, opened the golden book, and thus he read, one Lord, one faith, one God above us all, one Christendom, and one that we may call Father, supreme, both here and everywhere. There were these words in golden letters there. Thus having read, then said this ancient man, believest thou these sayings, yes or no? All this I do believe, Valerian replied, for nothing is more truly so, in heaven above or in the earth below. The ancient vanished then, he knew not where. Urban the Pope baptized him then and there. Home to Cecilia, and then he went and found her standing with an angel in his room. The angel held two cornels that were bound with lily flowers, coronals that were bound with lily flowers and roses in full bloom. And to Cecilia then he turned, to whom he gave the first, the second with its weight of roses to Valerian, her mate. With a clean body and with spotless thought, cherish these coronals forever. They, the angel said, from paradise were brought for you, and they shall never rot away, or lose their savour, trust what I say. And they are such as none shall see, unless his heart is chaste and hates all filthiness. And thou, Valerian, that went too soon, glad to pursue what good advice began, say what thou wouldest, thou shalt have thy boon. I have a brother, said Valerian. In all the world there is no other man I love so well, I pray he may find grace to know the truth as I do in this place. The angel said, God liketh thy request. You both shall bear the palm of martyrdom, and come hereafter to his blissful rest. Now while the angel spoke, Trebus had come, Valerian's brother, aware of some sweet savour which the rose and lily cast about the chamber, felt his heart beat fast. And where, I wonder, at this time of year, can such a fragrance come from, can you tell? The scent, he said, of rose and lily here, why, if I had them in my hands, their smell could pierce no deeper, could not pierce so well. I find a savour in my heart, and seeing nothing, I know that it has changed my being. Valerian said, to coronals have we, snow white and rosy red and shining fair, such as your eye has never learnt to see, as you have smelt their savour at my prayer. So, dearest brother, you shall see them there, if without tardiness you will receive the very truth, and knowing it, believe. Tiburce, replied, Do you say this to me in truth, or do I hear it in a dream? Dreaming, Valerian said, we used to be, till now we were, till now we were in sleep, so it must seem, but now awake in truth, yet how to deem? Tibursay replied, whether we're dreaming now? Valerian answered, I will tell you how. The angel of God has taught me truth. Your eyes shall also see if you renounce the power of idols and be clean, not otherwise. As to the miracle of the crowns of flower, St. Ambrose speaks of it to strengthen our belief, commends it solemnly indeed. The noble doctor's preface, if you read, says thus, to gain the palm of martyrdom, Cecilia, being filled with heaven's grace, forsook the world in her chamber, and her groom, witness Valerian and Tibursay, in face, of whose conversion we may judge her case, which God in bounty honored with a crown of flowers for each, brought by an angel down. This maiden brought these men to bliss above. The world well knows the truth, the worth, you may be sure, of devoted chastity in love. This Saint Cecilia showed him, and secure, in faith he held all idols and as impure, vain, dumb, and deaf, even as those that make them, and so he changed him to forsake them. Who thinks not so is but a brute at best. Tibursay gave answer, if I do not lie. Cecilia turned and kissed him on the breast, in joy that he beheld with inward eye, and saw the truth, said she, though we should die. For it, let us ally ourselves today. Blissful and lovely, she went on to say, just as the love of Christ has fashioned me to be your brother's wife, that love devised a new alliance as for you and me, and so I take you now that have despised your idols, therefore go and be baptized. Make yourself clean, and then you shall behold the angel's face of which your brother told. Tibursay for answer turned and said, Dear brother, first tell me whom I am to seek and where. Whom you should seek, be happy, said the other. None but Pope Urban, I will take you there. Urban, my brother? He began to stare. Is that where you will take me then? Said he. That would be very strange, it seems to me. You cannot mean that Urban, he went on, that has so often been condemned to die, and lives in holes and corners here and gone, and daren't put forth his head if one goes by. People would burn him, they would have him fry. If he were seen and caught, to seek him thus would surely make them do the same to us. So in search after the deity that heaven in her secrecies may hide, we shall be burnt on earth most certainly, to which Cecilia valiantly replied, men might fear death and would be justified in seeking to preserve their lives, dear brother, if there were only this life and no other. But there's a better in another place that never shall be lost. Be not afraid. God's Son has told us of it by his grace, the Father's Son, by whom all things were made, those creatures in whom reason is displayed. The Holy Ghost proceeding from the Father, dowers with a living soul, believe it rather. By word and miracle the Son of God, when in this world declared that we have learned there was an afterlife for all who trod the path he chose, dear sister, he returned. Did you not say just now in what concerned The being of God, or there was but one, and he was Lord in truth, yet now you speak of three. That too I shall explain, she said, in season, just as the wisdom in man is three, having invention, memory, and reason, so also in God's nature there can be three persons that are one in deity. And she began to preach in eager fashion of Christ's first coming and his plan, pain, and passion, and all he underwent in our condition, and how the Son of God had been withheld on earth from making man a full remission, bound as he is in sinfulness and quelled by many cares, and when she had dispelled his lingering doubt, Tiburce, in eager hope, went with Valerian to seek the Pope. Urban thanked God with happy heart and light. He christened them, and within little space perfected him in learning as God's knight. And after that Tiburce was filled with grace, and every day thereafter saw the face of God's bright angel, and if he was stirred to ask of God a boon, his prayer was heard. It would be hard to tell in order due how many wonders for them Jesus wrought, but lastly, if I may be brief with you, the officers of Rome went out and sought these brothers to the prefect they were brought. Almachius named, he questioned them and strove to search their will and to the idol of Jove. He sent them, make them sacrifice, he said, or strike their heads off, so my orders are. One Maximus, his officer, the head among the prefects and his registrar, took these two saints together, whom so far I have described, and brought them through the city, and as he led them forth, he wept for pity. When Maximus had listened to their teaching, he got the torturers to give him leave to take them to his house, and by their preaching he was converted ere and fall of eve. Their faith was found sufficient to retrieve the torturers too, and bring them to disown their false beliefs and trust in God alone. Cecilia came with evening dew to night, with priests who christened all with one accord, and afterwards, when morning had grown light, she gravely said, O you that are restored in Christ and are the soldiers of the Lord, cast off the works of darkness and put on the armor of righteousness, the night is gone. You have done battle greatly and prevail. Your course is done, your faith has never swerved. Go to the crown of life that cannot fail. The righteous judge and Savior you have served shall give it to you, for you have well deserved. And then they led them forth to sacrifice, as I have told you, or to pay the price. But taken to the temple, no advice, to tell the matter briefly, could persuade these men to offer incense sacrifice, or bow to Jove, but on their knees they prayed to God with humble hearts and unafraid. Their heads were severed in that very place, their souls went upward to the King of grace. And Maximus, who saw it, testified with piteous tears that he had seen the sight. High into heaven he saw their spirits glide, with angels full of clarity and light. His words converted many before night. And when Almachius heard what he had said, had him scourged to death with whips of lead. Cecilia buried him beside her own, beside Tiburce, beside Valerian, in her own burial place beneath a stone. Almachius therefore hastily began to issue orders, officer and man, were sent to fetch Cecilia before him, to honor Jove with incense and adore him. But they, converted by her holy lore, wept and affirmed their fullest confidence in all she said, and cried out more and more, Christ is God's Son without a difference. Verily God we cite in evidence, that he has saints to serve him such as these, and though we die, proclaim it on our knees. Almachius, for these doings made a stir, ordered her to be fetched, that he might see Cecilia for himself and question her. What sort of woman, then, are you? Said he. I am a gentlewoman born, said she. I'm asking you, he said, of your belief, about your faith, though it may cause you grief. You have begun your questions foolishly, answered Cecilia, seeking to conclude 2 points in one, which shows stupidity. He, vexed at her rejoinder, then pursued, How is it that your answer is so rude? How? She replied, on being thus arraigned, of conscience and pure heart and faith unfeigned. Almachius answered, Do you take no heed of my authority? And she returned, Your power is little to be feared indeed. Power of mortal man is soon discerned to be a bladder full of wind and spurned. For prick it with a needle when it's blown, and the inflated boast is overthrown. Well, you began most contumaciously, he said, and you continue turbulent. Do you not know the principality has given ordinance to this intent, that every Christian shall have punishment, unless he will deny his Christian creed, and that denying it he shall be freed. Your princes err, and so do your nobles do, Cecilia said, and by some crazy law, would make us guilty, but it is not true. You know us innocent because you saw that we held Christ in reverence and awe, and bore the name of Christians. Down you sat, and put a crime upon us just for that. But we that know the name for virtuous, renounce it not, whatever be the price. Almachius answered her, The choice stands thus, Abjure your Christendom or sacrifice. There's no escaping, follow my advice. At this the beautiful and blessed maid began to laugh, and answered unafraid, O judge confused for all your subtlety, would you that I denied my innocence? Is that your wish to make a sinner of me? Look at him there upholding this penitence, in open court, a madman lost to sense. In his endeavors, she answered, Sorry wretch, do you know how far my power may stretch? Is there no force or power in my breath? Have not our mighty princes given to me authority and power of life and death? Why do you speak so proudly then? Said he. I do not speak in pride, but steadfastly, she answered. I, and those upon my side, have deadly hatred for the sin of pride. If you are not afraid to hear the truth, I will be open and exposed to view your monstrous lies. Authority, forsooth, you say your princes have bestowed on you, power of life and death, but that's not true. You can take life, have power to destroy, but that's the only power you enjoy. But you may say your princes in their might made you death's minister, say more than so, and you will lie. Your power is very slight. Muzzle your boldness, said Almachius. Go, and pay our gods the sacrifice you owe. Your insults to myself can be endured. I'm a philosopher, and am inured. But there are insults that I will not swallow, that you have levelled at our gods, said he. Cecilia cried, your sophistries are hollow. There's not a word in what you've said to me that did not publish your obliquity, and prove yourself, I say it without grudge, an ignorant official, a vain judge. Igoth Maniac. Nothing you lack to make your outward eye totally blind for what is seen by all, to be a stone you seek to glorify, a senseless piece of stone that you would call a god. Put out your hand and let it fall. Upon it, touch it, taste it, you will find. Your hand says stone, although your eyes are blind. People will laugh at you to hear such stuff as you have uttered. They will think you mad, for it is known and commonly enough that God Almighty is in heaven clad in glory, and these idols, if you had the eyes to see it, offer no delight to you or to themselves, not worth a mite. All this she said and more, it well may be, till he grew angry. Take her whence she came, home to her house, and in her house, said he, burn her to ashes in a bath of flame. Thus he commanded, and they did the same. They shut her in a bath, and set alight a mighty fire beneath it day and night. They stoked it, and from night to day again, and yet in spite of all the flame and heat, she sat there, cool, and neither feeling pain, nor swearing, not a drop from head to feet, nor sweating, not a drop from head to feet. Yet it was in that bath she was to meet her death, for Almachius, in his wrath, sent a man down to kill her in the bath. 3 grievous strokes upon her neck he smote, this torturer, but by no circumstance could he succeed in cutting through her throat. Now at that time there was an ordinance forbidding executioners to chance smiting a 4th stroke, whether soft or sore, and so this torturer dared do no more. Half dead with carven neck she perished there. He left her lying as he went his way, but all the Christian folk, or such as were about her then, bound her with sheets to stay the flow of blood, and she, to the 3rd day, lingered in pain, yet never ceased in teaching the faith she fostered and continued preaching. Goods, movables, her rights in everything, then she bequeathed to Urban, saying, Lo, there was a boon I asked of heaven's king. 3 days of respite I desired, that so I might commend these souls before I go to you, that you may guide them in their search, and build my house for a perpetual church. Saint Urban and his deacons secretly fetched forth her body and buried it by night among his saints. Her mansion came to be the church of Saint Cecilia, hers by right. Saint Urban hallowed it as well he might. And in that church, in every noble way, Christ and his saint are honored to this day. Thus ends the 2nd nun's tale. This next one is entitled The Canon's Yeoman's Tale. Canon's Yeoman's Prologue. When St. Cecilia's life had reached the close, some 5 miles further on, as I suppose, at Broughton under Blean we saw a hack come galloping up. Its rider was in black, and under that a dinghy surplice lay. The hackney horse he rode was dappled grey, and sweating hard, it was sight to see. It must have galloped miles, it seemed to me. His yeoman's horse was also puffed and blowing, and sweated it too hardly could keep going. The foam stood high upon its collar, flecked just like a magpie. That was the effect. A wallet on the crupper, doubled tight, was fastened, and it seemed he travelled light, to suit a summer day, this worthy man, and as he came towards us I began wondering about him till I understood his cloak was sewn together with his hood, and pondering this it needed no research to write him down as a canon of the church. For context, a canon is law, a law person for the church. His hat hung down behind him on a lace, as he had ridden at more than trotting pace. In fact, he had been galloping like mad to keep him cool and catch the sweat he had. Beneath his hood, a dock leaf dripping wet. It was a joy to see that canon sweat. His forehead dropped down moisture like a still. For plantain, pellery, juice, or swill. When he had come up with us, he gave a hearty shout, and he said, "God bless this jolly party. How fast I've spurred," he said, "all for your sake. I was determined I would overtake your happy crowd and ride in company." His man was just as fall of courtesy. I think that must be in this type. And said, "My lords, I saw the day begin with your departure when you left the inn. And so I warned my lord and master, who is very eager, sir, to ride with you. Just for enjoyment, he is fond of fun. God bless you, friend, for warning him. Well done," our host rejoined. "And one may well suppose your lord is wise. He looks it, goodness knows. I'll wager he's a high-spirited as well. Do you think he has a tale or two to tell? To brighten up our company this morning." "Who, he, my lord? Rather, I give you warning. He is a great joker, for all jollity. Not half he is, you can rely on me. If you had studied him as well as I, you'd be amazed how capable and sly. When he gets down to work, my master is all sorts of enterprise. These jobs of his are more than any of you here and now could bring about unless he showed you how. Homely as he may look among your crowd, if you but knew him, you would all be proud. You wouldn't forego acquaintance with my lord, not for a fortune, if I could afford to bet. I'd wager all in my possession. He is a man of very great discretion. I warn you, sir, he is a superior being." "Well," said our host, "while I'm not disagreeing, what is he then, a clerical or what?" "Only a cleric? Him? I should say not," the yeoman said. "Much more, or else I'm daft. Let me inform you briefly of his craft. I say my master has such subtle powers, although I help him in this work of ours. I can't explain them all, he's so far on. that all this blessed road we ride upon, from here as far as Canterbury town, why, he could turn it all clean upside down, and pave it all with silver and with gold. The yeoman paused, as if his tale was told. Our thoughtful host said, Benedicte, all that you say sounds wonderful to me, for if your lord is truly so sagacious, so much to be respected, goodness gracious, why does he take his dignity so light? That Garbelline is hardly worth a mite. Gabardine is hardly worth a mite. Well, for a man like that, God bless my wits, it isn't even clean, it's torn to bits. Why is your lord so sluttish, if I may? With all your magic powers, can't he pay for better cloth, if what you say is so? Answer me that. That's what I'd like to know. Why, said the yeoman, need you ask me that? God help us all, the thing he's working at can never be successful, this remark. I can make it openly, so keep it dark. He knows too much, I think, easy to scoff, but things when overcome just don't come off. The learned tell us it's a waste endeavor, that why he's such a fool, he's far too clever. Often enough a man with too much brain is likely to misuse it. What's the gain? I'm very sorry for it, but that's his way. God help him, I've nothing more to say. Well, never mind, my man, replied our host, but what's this subtlety of his you boast? If I may ask, what does he do all day, if he's as sly and crafty as you say? Where do you live now, if you don't mind telling? In slums, he answered, suburbs are our dwelling. We lurk in holes and corners and blind alleys, places where every thief and robber rallies. By nature fear-stricken and secret places, where those reside who dare not show their faces. That, to tell truth, is where we go a-walking. Now, said the host, if I may go on talking, why are you so discolored around the face? God was unkind to it, that's about the case. He said, I'm used to blowing up the fire, and that's what's changed my color. I don't inquire into complexions, mirrors leave me cold. I work like mad at learning to make gold. We're always blundering, spilling things in the fire, but for all that we fail in our desire, for our experiments reach no conclusion, yet we keep plenty under that illusion. And borrow money, say £1 or 2, or 10 or 12, and even more we do, and make them think that at the very least their money will be doubled or increased. Yet it's a lie, but still we live in hope it might be managed somehow, on we grope. But the whole science lies so far ahead, it can't be overtaken, though we've said on oath it could. It slides away so fast, it will make beggars of us all at last. Now while his yeoman was enlarging thus, in came the canon, hearing him discuss. To listen closer, his suspicious head distrusted anything that people said. Cato has a guilty conscience delves. The guilty think all talk is of themselves. That was the cause the canon drew in near. His yeoman he was very keen to hear. As he addressed his yeoman, having heard, You hold your tongue, don't speak another word, or if you do, you'll pay for it, do you see? You're slandering me before this company. What's more, you're telling things that should be hidden. Yeah, said our host, go on, don't be forbidden. I wouldn't mind his threats if I were you. They're not worth anything, no more I do. He answered when the canon realized that all his secrets were to be surprised. He fled away in grief and shame. "Ha!" said the yeoman, "now we'll have a game. Now I can talk, and I've a lot to tell. He's gone, the foul fiend carry him off to hell. We'll never meet again, I'll tell you flat. For pound or penny I can promise that. He was the one first brought me to the game. Grief strike him down before he dies in shame. For it's a serious thing to me, I say, as I am well aware, think as you may. And yet, for all my misery and grief, long hours and injuries without relief, I never could leave the business any price. Oh, that I had a brain that would suffice to tell you all that's proper to that art. Nevertheless, I'll try to tell you part, and since my master's gone, I will not spare. All that I know about it, I'll declare. The Canon's Yeoman's Tale. I've served this canon 7 years and more, yet I am no nearer science than before. And all I've ever had I've lost thereby, and so, God knows, have many more than I. Time was when I was fresh and fond of cheer, liked decent clothes and other handsome gear. Now I might wear my hose upon my head, and where my colour was a lively red, my face is wan and wears a laden look. If you try science, you'll be brought to book. My eyes are bleared with work on preparations. That's all good you get from transmutations. That slippery science stripped me down so bare that I'm worth nothing here or anywhere. Added to that, I am so deep in debt from borrowing money you can lay a bet. Long as I live, I'll never pay it, never. Let every man be warned by me forever. Whoever tries his hand at such behavings, if he goes on, I say, will lose his savings. What's more, so help me God, his only gains are empty money bags and addled brains. And by the time the man's gone raging mad, and risked and lost whatever goods he had, he then eggs others on, and off they run, to lose their goods as he himself has done. A spiteful wretch takes pleasure when he sees that others suffer from the same disease. So I was told once by a learned man, but what's the odds? I'll on as I began. When we had fixed a place to exercise our esoteric craft, we all looked wise. Our teams were highly technical and quaint. I blew the fire up till it fit to faint. As for proportions, why should I rattle on about the substances we worked upon? The 6 or 7 ounces, it may be, of silver or some other quantity. Or, brother, to name the things that we were piling, like orpiment, burnt bones and iron filing, ground into finest powder all the lot, or how we poured them in an earthen pot. You put in salt and pepper, be it stated, before these powers I enumerated, securely covered by a sheet of glass, and plenty of other things, but let them pass, and how the pot and glass were daubed with clay, for fear of the gases might escape away. And then the fire, whether slow or brisk, we had to make the trouble and the risk. We took to sublimate the preparation, or in the amalgaming and calcination of quicksilver, crude mercury, that is, we always failed for all those tricks of his. Our orpiment, our mercury sublimate, our lead protoxide ground on a porphyry plate, and measured out in ounces, grain by grain, gave us no help, our labor was in vain. Neither the gas that rose as things grew hot, nor solids at the bottom of the pot, were the least use in what we tried to do. Lost was our trouble, lost our labor too. And all the money in the name of hell that we'd laid out on it was lost as well. And there was also many another thing pertaining to the trade we had to bring, though I can't name them in an ordered plan, because I'm an uneducated man. Yet I will list them as they come to mind, yet not distinguishing their class and kind. Armenian clay, borax, verdigris, earthen and glassware vessels piece by piece, our urinals, our pots for oil extraction, crucibles, pots for sublimative action, phial, alembic, beaker, gourd, retort, and other useless nonsense of the sort. Not worth a leak, needless to name them all. Water was in rubefaction, bullock's gall, arsenic, brimstone, sal ammoniac, and herbs that I could mention by the sack, moonwort, valerian, agrimony, and such, which I could number if it mattered much. Our lamps, we had them burning day and night, to help us to succeed if we but might. Our furnace, too, for calcifying action, our waters in a state of albefaction. Chalk, quicklime, ashes, and the white of eggs, various powders, clay, piss, dung, and dregs, waxed bags, saltpeter, vitriol, and a whole variety of fires of wood and coal. Alkali, tartar, salt in preparation, matters combust or in coagulation, clay mixed with horsehair, sometimes with my own, crystallized alum, oil of tartar thrown, with tartar crude and unfermented beer, yeast and a dozen more than you shall hear, realgar, various absorbent batters, and I may add incorporative matters, our silver in a state of citrinication, things sealed in wax and things in fermentation. Our molds, our vessels for assaying metal, and many other things I learnt to settle. I'll tell as I was taught, if you want more. There were the bodies 7 and the spirits 4, which my instructor frequently rehearsed. Among the spirits quicksilver came first, and orpiment came second, then he passed to sal ammoniac and brimstone last. As for the 7 bodies I should mention, here they all are, if they are worth attention. Gold for the sun and silver for the moon, iron for Mars and quicksilver in tune, with Mercury, lead with prefigures Saturn, and tin for Jupiter. Copper takes the pattern of Venus, if you please. This cursed trade robs one of all the money he has made, and all one spends on it or round about it will certainly be lost, I cannot doubt it. If you would publish your infatuation, come on and try your hand at transmutation. If one of you has money in his fist, step up and make yourself an alchemist. Perhaps you think the trade is easy learnt? Why then, come on and get your fingers burnt. Monk, friar, priest, canon, let them come who may, and study books and papers night and day, to learn the weird directions verse by verse, they'll find it's all in vain, God knows, and worse. And as for trying to teach a simpleton, pooh, no use taking care of it, talking of it, it can't be done. Whether you know your alphabet or not, all's one for all good that may be got. Yeah, alchemy will only cost you an arm and a leg. And a body. Sorry, it will initially cost you a body and a leg on top of that. Then to get, capture a soul, you'll need another arm and a suit of armor. Learned and simple by my soul's salvation, achieve the same results from transmutation. Equally well when all is said and done, they all fail absolutely, every one. And still I have forgotten my intention to speak of iron filings and to mention corrosive liquids, ways of mollifying, or hardening substances, or of supplying oils and ablutions, stores of fusible metal, and so on. It's beyond a book to settle these matters, any book. It would be best to give this catalogue and myself a rest, for I imagine I have said enough to raise the devil, be he never so rough. Ah, no, let be, for the philosopher's stone, called the elixir, never can be known. We seek, and where it once discovered, we should be safe enough, expenses covered. But there's no way, whatever paths we trod, the search was useless, and I swear to God, for all our cunning, when all's tired and done, that stone won't yield itself to anyone. It's made us squander all we ever had, losses enough to drive us nearly mad. But for the hope that crept about our heart, always supposing, when we felt the smart, it would relieve us of our sad condition, sharp was the hope, and hard the supposition. I gave fair warning you may search forever, a golden future lures one on to sever oneself from all one ever had, and trust an art for which one cannot lose the lust. People will always find it bittersweet, or so it seems, with nothing but a sheet to cover one at night, with no array other than some outlandish cloak by day. One yet would sell them both and be bereft. No one can stop until there's nothing left. Go where they may, a man can always tell such people by their pungent brimstone smell. For all the world they stink as will a goat, a hot and ram-like smell that seems to float about them. A man a mile away will catch the foul infection, I dare say. See, by the smell and by the threadbare cloak, you're pretty sure to recognize these folk. If privately you ask them to confess why they go round in such a shabby dress, they'll turn at once and whisper in your ear that if they should be spotted they must fear death for their learning, such is their pretense. That's how these people trade on innocence. Well, pass on to the story if you require. Before the pot is placed upon the fire, my master takes a certain quantity of metals which he tempers, none but he. I can speak boldly now he's gone away, for he's a cunning worker, as they say. At any rate, he's made himself a name. He blundered very often just the same. And how do you think it happens, like as not? There's an explosion, and goodbye the pot. These metals are so violent when they split, Our very walls can scarce stand up to it, unless well built and made of stone and lime. Bang go the metals through them every time, and some are driven down into the ground. That is why we used to lose them by the pound. And some are scattered all about the floor, some even jump into the roof, what's more. Although the devil didn't show his face, I'm pretty sure he was about the place. In hell itself, where he is lord and master, there couldn't be more rancor and disaster than when our pots exploded, as I told you, and think they've been let down and start to scold you. Some say the way the fire was made was wrong. Others said, no, the bellows blown too strong. That frightened me, I blew them as a rule. Stuff, said the third, you're nothing but a fool. It wasn't tempered as it ought to be. No, said a fourth, shut up and listen to me. I say it should have been a beechwood fire, and thus that's the cause, or I'm a liar. I cannot tell you why the thing went wrong. Recommissions, though, were hot and strong. Sorry about that. Recriminations, though, were hot and strong. Well, said my lord, there's nothing more to do. I'll note these dangers for another brew. I'm pretty certain that the pot was cracked. Be that as it may, don't gape, we've got to act. Don't be alarmed, help to sweep up the floor, just as we always do, and try once more. Pluck up your hearts, the muck was gathered up. A canvas then was laid to form a cup, and all the muck was thrown into a sieve. He sifted it for what it yet might give. By God, says one, I saw some metal fall, some saved, although we haven't got it all. If things went wrong just now and acted, though, another time they may go well enough. We've got to risk our goods if we're to gain. What about merchants? Lord, they don't maintain a fixed prosperity, believe you me. Sometimes their goods are swallowed by the sea, and sometimes they come safely back to port. Well, calm yourself, my master would retort. Next time I shall have things in proper frame. I'll see our ship comes home or take the blame. Something went wrong, I know, I'll find out what. Another said the fire was too hot. But whether hot or cold, as you may depend, we always meet with failure in the end. Yet though we never reached the wished conclusion, we still went raving on in our illusion, sitting together arguing on, and every one as wise as Solomon. However, all that glitters is not gold, and that's the truth as we're so often told. Isn't every apple on the spray is good to eat, lament it how you may. It's just the same with us, though it may please us to think we're wise. The wisest one, by Jesus, will prove the biggest fool, that's my belief, and he that seems the dishonest, a thief. That will be clear enough for you, my friends, before I leave you my story my story ends. Part 2. There is a cannon growing up and down, amongst us one who could infect a town as large as Nineveh and Rome spread flat, with Troy and 3 or 4 on top of that. The endless tricks and cunning of this crook are more than could be written in a book. Though you sat down and wrote 1,000 years, he has no equal in these vale of tears. The terms he uses to wriggle, wind, and scuttle in tones of voices so infinitely subtle. A man engaged with him in conversation soon finds his brain is dizzy with rotation. Unless the man's a devil like himself, many a man he's covered on his he's cozened on his pelf, and will again if he should live a while. Yet there are men will travel mile on mile to seek this canon out and be acquainted, not knowing everything he does is tainted. So if you care to listen to what I say, you shall hear all about it the right away. If holy canons of the church it rouses the thought that I am slandering your houses, since it is of a canon I am speaking, reject the thought. God knows there is some sneaking rascal in every house, and God forbid that all were judged by what one madman did. Slandering you is no part of my intention, but to set right the evils that I mention. Nor is my tale aimed specially at you. It will apply to many others, too. Among the 12 apostles, our Creator found faith in all but one who was a traitor. That why should the remainder be to blame? That stood in innocence, I say the same, of you, except for this, if you will hear, if any Judas should appear among you, fling him out, I say betimes, before you're shamed and beggared by his crimes. And therefore take no umbrage, sirs, I pray, that in this instance listen to what I say. There was a chantry priest, it would appear, one who had lived in London many a year, so pleasant in his manner and so able, the lady in whose house he sat at table refused to take a farthing's worth of pay for board and clothes, whatever his display, and she allowed him pocket money as well. No matter for that, I shall proceed to tell my story of the canon, whose intrusion brought this unhappy priest to his confusion. This treacherous canon then came in one day, entered the priest's apartment where he lay, and begged him to advance a certain sum, which was to be repaid him, saying, "Come, lend me a mark, it's only for 3 days. I'll pay you on the nail, I'm one who pays. And if I fail when you come to check, another time just hang me by the neck." This priest produced the money on the spot. The canon, after thanking him a lot, took a leave of him and went on upon his way, and brought his money back the proper day. And when it had been paid back and matters righted, this foolish priest, of course, was quite delighted, and said, "Trust me, I never take offence if some one comes to borrow a few pence, or anything I have in my possession, when he's an honest man of good profession, and doesn't break his day if he should owe. To such a man I never can say no." Shut up. Be right back. Water. Yeah. I am back. So let's get the V-Bridger started. Okay. What? Said the canon. I did not pay when due? That would be something altogether new. My honor's a thing I hope to keep forever till the moment when I creep into my grave. God send I do indeed. You can trust that as surely as the creed. And I thank God, in honor be it spoken, no one can say my word was ever broken. For any gold or silver I was lent, I never stole a farthing with intent. Now, sir, said he, to speak of my concerns, since you are fond of doing kindly turns, and were particularly kind to me, to pay you back the coin of charity, I'll tell you something, if you care to learn, in simple language, how I came to turn my talents towards alchemy and science. Watch, you can place with an absolute reliance on seeing me work a miracle ere I go. What? Said the priest. Can it really be so? Mother of God, I beg you to proceed. At your commandment, sir, I will indeed. He answered, God forbid that I should not. Do you see, this thief's kind service was a plot. How true it is that proffered service stinks, so say the wise and anyone who thinks. I'll verify that saying in a while, upon this canon root of fraud and guile, he took a special pleasure and delight, such was his fiendish heart and appetite. For begging Christian people to destruction, God keep us from his treacherous seduction. The priest had no idea with whom he dealt, and what was coming to him never felt. O foolish priest, O innocent in bliss, soon to be blinded and by avarice. O God abandoned, blind in a complete and thoughtless ignorance of the deceit. This wily fox is putting into shape. You're in the snare, there will be no escape. And therefore to press onto a conclusion that only can refer to your confusion, unhappy man, I hurry on to volley anathemas upon your witless folly, and on the treachery of that other wretch, as far as my abilities will stretch. You think this canon was my master, eh? Sir, host, by Mary of Heaven, let me say, it was another canon, and not he, 100 times more skilled in trickery. His frauds have cozened many a people many a time. It dulls my wits to speak of it in rhyme. Whenever I think of them, it brings a rush of blood, for very shame I have to blush. At any rate, my cheeks begin to glow, and though there's no color in them, well I know, my face is tarnished, fumes of the diverse metals you heard me latterly rehearse have wasted and consumed and turned it yellow. Now take account of this accursed fellow. Sir, he addressed the priest, send out your man for quicksilver as quickly as you can. Let him bring several ounces, 2 or 3, and when he's back, I promise you shall see a miracle you never saw before. Certainly, said the priest, he's at the door. It shall be done at once. The man was sent. Ready to do his bidding, off he went, and to tell truth returned immediately, bringing 3 ounces of the mercury, and gave them to the canon for a start. The canon laid them carefully apart, and sent the servant out again for coal, in order to start work towards his goal. The man came back and brought a scuttle full. This canon then drew forth a crucible. Out of his bosom showed it to his dupe. And now, he said, be good enough to stoop, and measure out an ounce of mercury. This is our instrument, as you can see. Open your hand, now put the mercury in. That's it, and in the name of Christ begin. The study of science, be an alchemist. Few, very few indeed, I would enlist with those who share the secrets of my science, but you shall watch me using this appliance. Do an experiment, I shall reduce or mortify this metal, no abuse of your good faith before your very eyes. Yes, you shall watch it as it mortifies, and changes into silver just as fine and good as any in your purse or mine, or anywhere else, and just as malleable. If not, call me a liar and unable to show my face, a subject for your mirth. I have powder here that costs the earth, and will make all good, for it's the basis of all my power. I'll show you in these cases. Send your man off, tell him to wait outside, and shut the door on him. I won't be spied upon at work, for no one else must see the way we are set to work in alchemy. He gave his orders, and the thing was done. The servant was sent packing at a run. The chamber door was bolted with a jerk, and these philosophers got down to work. At the accursed canon's fell desire, the priest then set the thing upon the fire, and grabbed the bellows busily and blew into the crucible. The canon threw this powder. What it was, I cannot tell. Possibly chalk or glass would do as well. Or anything else indeed, not worth a fly, to hoodwink him, and urged him to look spry, and cover up the crucible with coal, to demonstrate my love for you, dear soul. The canon said, in what we're going to do, I'll leave the handling of it all to you. Oh, thank you, said the priest, who was delighted, and crouched the coals just as he was invited. And while he busied himself, this fiendish wretch, this treacherous canon whom the devil fetch, produced a bit of beechwood charred to coal, in which there had been subtly bored a hole, that held an ounce of silver filings stopped with wax secretly, lest a filing dropped. Please understand, this treacherous invention was not made then, but made of long intention. The canon had devised it all before, and other dodges too, I'll tell you more. Hereafter of those other things he brought, for long before he came he had the thought of tricking him, so he did before they parted. He couldn't wait to skin him, having started. It dulls my wits, I say, to speak of him. Oh, to take vengeance on this treacherous, trim liar, if only I knew how, but there, he's slippery, here and there and everywhere. Now listen, gentlemen, for God's dear love. He took this coal of which I spoke above, and palmed it dexterously, while the priest, still busy, as I said, had nearly ceased, poking, as I have told you, with a prong among the coals. You're doing it all wrong, the canon said. Here's how it ought to be. Dear chap, I'll fix it. Give the thing to me. Just let me interfere a little. There. St. Giles, I'm sorry for you, I declare. You've got quite hot. Why, man, you're pouring sweat. Here, take this cloth and wipe yourself. You're wet. And while the priest was mopping up his face, the canon took his coal, the damned disgrace, and struck it in the middle somewhat higher than was the crucible, and blew the fire, till up it flamed, and all the coals were red. And now let's have a drink, the canon said. All will be well quite soon, I'll undertake. Sit down, let's cheer ourselves, for goodness' sake. After a while, this cannon's breechen coal burnt up, out came the silver from the hole into the crucible, and began to run, as you'd expect. What else could it have done? Couched well above the flames, it couldn't miss. The priest, alas, knew nothing of all this, thinking the coals were all alike and good. It was a trick he had not understood. And when this alchemist saw all was ready, "Rise up," he said, "Sir Priest, beside me, steady. We haven't got a mould. Let's take a walk, for we shall need to buy ourselves some chalk, which I can carve, if I may be so bold, into the shape required for a mould. And you must get me out a bowl or pan with water in it, for I tell you, man, our business here is just about to sprout, and just to disabuse you of all doubt, while you're away to clear me of suspicion, I shall go with you on your expedition, and stay with you till we return once more." And to be brief, he then unlocked the door, went out and shut it, turning to relock it, and off they went. The key was in his pocket. Presently back they came with no delay. Why should I drag my story out all day? He took the chalk when they got back again, and made a mould of it, let me explain. Out of his sleeve, I say, he took a rod of silver. Pour thy vengeance on him, God, which weighted an ounce exactly. This he took. Watch for the tricks of this accursed crook, and carved his mould to make a perfect fit. For the same silver rod, depend on it. So furtively the priest, you may believe, saw nothing. Then he tucked it up his sleeve, turned to the fire, took out the preparation, and poured it in the mould with great elation. He cast the mould into the water pan when ready, saying to the priest, poor man, look what we've got. Put in your hand and grope, and you will find some silver there, I hope. Hell's devils, what else could have been the stuff? Silver filings are silver right enough. The priest put his hand and took a scoop, and out he brought the metal with a whoop. Thrilled to the veins to see this silver rod. God's blessing on you, and Mother of God, and all his saints preserve you, worthy master, he cried, and may they bring me to disaster, unless you will vouchsafe your kind compliance in teaching me this noble art and science. I'll work for you with all my might and main. Well, said the canon, let me try again. We'll have a second shot, pay careful heed, and you'll become an expert, and at need can try it in my absence once you're in the ways of scientific discipline. Let's take another ounce of mercury. This is no time for chattering, said he, and do the same with it as we have done already with the first, our silver one. The priest then set to business and began to to do precisely what this cursed man commanded of him, puffing at the fire, in the mad hope of reaching his desire. Meanwhile the canon, if I need explain, stood ready by to gull the priest again, dandling to give him countenance in this, a hollow stick observe the artifice, into the end of which an ounce no more of silver filings had been stuffed before, as in the beechwood coal with wax, no doubt, to stop the silver filings falling out. And while the priest was busy at his job, the canon came and touched him with the knob, and with a flourish cast the powder in, just as before the devil scrape his skin. Hear me, O God, and flay him for the trick, and stirred the crucible with the same stick. Primed in the treacherous way that you have heard, he always was a crook in deed and word. He stirred the coals until the wax began to melt over the flame, as any man, except a fool, of course, would know it must. Out of the stick slid all the silver dust, and down into the crucible it fell. What can be better, gentlemen, than, well, for when this priest had been deceived again, and taken it all for gospel right as rain, he was so happy that I can't express in words his ecstasy of happiness. He proffered to the canon on the spot, body and soul. "Eh?" said the canon. "What? I have some powers, though I seem poor to some, but let me tell you there is more to come. Do you happen to have some copper here?" said he. "Yes," said the priest, "I think I have, maybe. If not, you'll have to buy some right away. Be off with you, dear sir, quick, I say." He went away and came back with the copper. The canon took it from him as was proper, and carefully weighed out a measured ounce. My tongue is all too simple to pronounce words that could serve my thoughts or match my feelings about this bloody-minded double-dealings. Friendly he seemed to those he hadn't caught, but was a fiend in what he felt and thought. It wearies me to say how false he was, yet I must try to speak of it because it may help others to beware his treason in time, and truly that's my only reason. Within the crucible the canon placed his ounce of copper, set it then in haste among the flames, and cast the powder in, telling the priest to stoop down and begin blowing the fire, and it was all a hoax. He made a monkey of him with his jokes. He cast the molten copper in his mold and put it in the water to get cold. Leaning above it, he put his hand, now in his sleeve, as you will understand. You heard me say so, was a silver rod. He took it slyly out, the filthy sod. The priest knew nothing of his treacherous plan, and left it in the bottom of the pan. He fumbled in the water, groped about, and with amazing sleight of hand took out, and hid the copper rod with friendly charm. He took the unsuspecting victim's arm, and said to him, as if it were a joke, "By God, you're much to blame. Stoop down and poke. Help me as I helped you, that's only fair. Come on, put in your hand and see what's there." The priest took out the silver there, and then the canon said, "We must go out again, taking these rods, all three that we have made, and ask some fellow in the goldsmith trade, whether they're anything. I should be distressed to find them less than silver of the best." Well, it's a thing that can be proved forthwith. So off they went to find a silversmith, and gave their metal to the man to try it, with fire and hammer, no one could deny it. All were as should be, silver unalloyed. Was that besotted cleric overjoyed? Never was a bird gladder to greet the day, never was a nightingale in depth of May more joyful in her eagerness to sing, nor lady lustier in carolling, or in her talk of love and womanhood, nor knightly soul more eager to do good, in deeds of arms to please his chosen lady, than was the priest to learn that graceless shady business, and he addressed the canon thus, for love of God who died for all of us, and if I may deserve so much of you, what will that powder cost me? Tell me, do. By Our Lady, said the canon, for a buyer, I warn you it's expensive, save one friar, and I myself, there's no one who can make it, not in all England. Never mind, I'll take it, the priest replied. For God's sake, what's the price? It's dear, he said, but at a sacrifice. Since you're a friend and really want to bid, God help me, it is yours for 40 quid. But for the kindness that you showed before in lending me a mark, it would be more. This priest at once collected 40 pound in golden pieces, and he took them round to give the canon for his recipe, while work in life was fraud and treachery, whose work in life was fraud and treachery. Sir priest, he said, I look for no renown in this my art, in fact I play it down. So you will love me, keep the matter So if you love me, keep the matter quiet. If people knew my skill, there'd be a riot. By God, there'd be such envy and defiance against me for philosophy and science. I should be killed, there'd be no other way. Why, God forbid, the priest said. Killed, you say? Better to squander all the wealth I had to save you, if I didn't send me mad, dear God, than to see you suffer and ill. You have a solid reason for goodwill. The canon said, Goodbye and many thanks, and off he went, this prince of mountebanks. The priest never set eyes on him again. After that day, I hardly need explain that when he tried experiments, the priest had no success whatever, not the least. The powder wouldn't work, it was a mock. He had been tricked and made a laughing stock. That was the canon's way of introduction when bringing down poor people to destruction. Gentlemen think there has been a strife of old, in every class waged between men and gold. So fierce there's hardly any to be had. Alchemy has made many people mad, and on my word I think it may well be the greatest reason for its scarcity. Their science jargon is too woolly. No one can hope to understand it fully. Not as intelligence it goes nowadays, and they may go on chattering like jays, and take delight and trouble in their chatter, but for all that they'll never solve the matter. If you are rich, it's easy to be taught how to transmute and bring your wealth to naught. There's so much lucre in this fine affair. One's joy can be transmuted to despair. It can impoverish the heaviest purses, yet all it does for one is by the curses of those that lend their goods before they've learnt. O fire, for shame, when people have been burnt. Cannot they learn, alas, to shun the fire? And you that use it, master your desire, lest you lose all, for better late than never. Long is the ruin that can last forever. Prowl as you may, in secret can't be found, though you're as bold as Dobbin blundering around. Poor blind old horse in dangers all unknown, he's just as liable to hit a stone. keep along the highway, and I hold it's just the same transmuting into gold. Should then your outward eye see incorrectly, let the mind's eye behold more circumspectly. You may be wide awake, but though you stare, you will make nothing of that business there. Rather will waste all you can grab or earn, slacken a fire that is quick to burn. Meddle no more with alchemy, I mean, for if you do, all thrift will be swept clean. I should at once inform you, if I may, what genuine philosophers would say. Arnold is one of those that made the quorum. He wrote Rosarium Philosophorum, and came from Villanova. Thus he says there is no mortifying mercury, without the use of sulphur, bother to it, the first of all philosophers that know it. What was Hermes Trismegistus, and he said, doubtless the dragon never can be dead, or mortify unless you are to slay his brother with him. Put another way, the dragon stands for Mercury, none other, and sulphur, known as brimstone, is his brother. And these are drawn from Luna and from Sol. Therefore, he said, observe this protocol. Let no man busy himself to seek this art, unless he knows the language and the heart of science, both in aim and technical term, for without these he is an ignorant worm. This is a craft of science that is furled all secrets and the secrets of the world. Plato had a disciple once, and he said to his master, if you care to see, it is recorded in the Chimaea, Zenorius Zadeth Tabula. Tell me the name, sir, of the secret stone. And Pluto said in answer, it is known as Titan stone upon the tongues of men. And what is that? Said the disciple then. Magnesia, answered Plato. Is it thus? Then it's ignorum per ignotius. What then may be magnesia, master, pray? Magnesia is the liquid, I would say, composed of the four elements, he said. What is the root principle or fountainhead? Will you be pleased to indicate the font, that font? Fount? No, said Plato then, on no account. Philosophers are under strict control, never to tell that secret to a soul, or write it in a book. It is unpriced, being a secret very dear to Christ. It is his will that no discovery be made of it, save where his deity wills to inspire his servants, else forbidden. No more, from whom he wills, he keeps it hidden. So I conclude, since God will not allow philosophers to tell their pupils how to find this stone, no doubt it's better so, and my advice would be to let it go. Make God your adversary for a whim, and work at what is contrary to him, and to his will, and you will never thrive, though you transmute as long as you're alive. Aye, there's a point for which my tale began, and may God prosper every honest man. Amen. This next story is the Mansiple's tale. The Mansiple's Tale, the Mansiple Prologue. Don't you all know where stands a little town, the one that people call Bob Up and Down? Near Blean Woods on the way to Canterbury? Well, it was thereabouts our host turned merry. Duns in the mire, he said. Behold, King Log, for love of money drag him from his bog. Will no one wake our friend asleep behind? A thief could rob him and he wouldn't mind. Look at him napping, 40 winks, cock's bones. He'll tumble off his horse and hit the stones. Is that the London cook the devil take him? Make him come here, he knows a fine will make him. Tell us a story, though I'm bound to say it won't be worth a barrow load of hay. Wake up, you cook, he said, God give you sorrow. What's up with you to sleep this sunny morrow? Have you had fleas all night, or else got drunk, or spent the night in toiling with a punk, and haven't got the strength to raise your head? The cook was drunk, pale drunk, no touch of red, and answered from a stupor, Bless my soul, I feel all heavy, haven't got control. I'd rather sleep, he said, I don't know why. Then drink a gallon of wine, the best you buy. In all Cheapside, the Manciple said, Well, if I can make things easier for a spell, for you and not offend the company, and if the host extends the courtesy, to let me, I'll excuse you from your tale. Upon my word, your face is pretty pale. Your eyes are somewhat dazed, I can't help thinking. As for your breath, I'm bound to say it's stinking, which shows you indisposed for such a matter. Blunt words are best, I never was one to flatter. Look at him yawning there, the drunken sot. You'll think he meant to swallow us on the spot. Keep your mouth shut, man. Mercy, what a socket. The devil of hell's own hoof would hardly block it. Your cursed breath may well infect us all, you stinking swine. Fie, how you gape and sprawl. Look out, take care, sir, he's a powerful man. I'd like to see a punch ball hit his pan. He's about ripe for trouble in that line. You'd think he had been drinking monkey wine. And that's when one goes playing with a straw. This speech annoyed the cook, who, turning raw, craned at the Manciple with so much force, for want of speech he tumbled off his horse, and there he lay for all the care they took. Fine cavalry performance for a cook. Pity he couldn't have held on by his ladle. They got him back at last into the cradle. After a deal of shoving to and fro, to lift him up, it was a sorry show. Poor pallid soul, unwieldier than most, but to the Manciple at last our host turned and remarked, Drink is in domination over the fellow, by my soul's salvation. I think he'd only tell a lousy tale, whether it's wine or maybe new brewed ale. That's in him, he is talking through his nose, like someone with a cold, one would suppose. Snuffing like that, I think he's going to spew. It's just about as much as he can do to keep his horse from falling in the ditch, and if his horse should fall, he'll follow, which, given us as much as we can do to strain and lift his drunken body up again. Carrying corpses would be just as grim. Tell on your tale, I've had enough of him. But Manciple, it wasn't very nice of you to scold the fellow for his vice. Another day those chickens you have loosed may very well all return to roost. I mean, he might allude to small amounts that could be criticized in your accounts as not quite honest if it came to proof. That might be awkward, I shall keep aloof. He easily could catch me in the snare. The other said, I'd rather buy the mare between his drunken legs than start a row. I mustn't make him angry anyhow. The things I said were only meant in jest. Do you know what? I've something of the best. Here in this gourd, wine of the ripest grape. Just watch, and we shall have another jape. I'll give the cook some liquor, if I may. On pain of death, he shall not say me nay. And certainly, to tell you what occurred, the cook, alas, drank freely from the gourd. What was the need? He'd had enough before, yet sputtered in the mug and drank some more, giving it back to me when he had had enough. The cook, who was delighted with the stuff, thanked him as best he could for some time after. Our host went off into a roar of laughter and said, "Well, now I see how necessary it is to bring one's drink to keep us merry, for it can turn all rancor and dissension to love and harmony and and stop contention. O Bacchus, thou, a blessing on thy name, that so contrivest earnest into the game, our thanks and worship to thy deity. My prayers are done, you get no more of me. Now, Manciple, on with your story, pray." "Well, sir," he said, "attend to what I say." The Manciple's Tale. When Phoebus had his art dwelling here on earth, as ancient when Phobos had his dwelling here on earth, as ancient books report for what they're worth, he was a paladin of lustiest marrow, better than any one with bow and arrow. He slew the serpent Python as it lay, coiled in the sunshine and asleep one day. And many a noble and distinguished deed his bow performed for him, as you can read, and every instrument of minstrelsy he well knew how to play, while melody poured from his throat, clear joy to hear him sing. Even Amphion, famous Theban king, who built the town's defenses by his singing, was not so skilled in setting echoes ringing. Added to that, he was a handsome man, that ever was heard of since the world began. Why should I make description of his features? He was the fairest living of earthly creatures, and therewithal he was of noblest bearing, filled with high honor, excellence, and daring. This Phoebus, flower in the cap of youth, renowned for bounty, chivalry, and truth, to please himself and signalize his glory in having vanquished Python, says my story, was wont to carry in his hand a bow. It happened that this Phobos kept a crow. I retro. Lodged in a cage, and there for many a day he taught it speech as one can teach a jay, and fostered it with care. This crow was white, while as white as a snowy swan it could recite, with perfect mimicry of tone and word, what any man had uttered, and the bird would use this talent when it told a tale. In all the world there was no nightingale. Moreover, with 100,000th part of what it had in merriness and art. Now in his house Phobos had a wife, who lived with him. He loved her more than life, and night and day he gave his diligence to pleasing her and showing reverence. Except for this, if it's the truth they tell us, I have to say he was extremely jealous, and wished to guard her lest an exhibition be made of him, as those in his condition commonly do. In vain it can't succeed. A good wife who is pure in thought and deed should not be checked and spied on, that is plain, and truly it is all labor all in vain. To check a wicked wife it can't be done, It's imbecility, say I for one, for men to waste their labor checking wives, and so the ancients say who wrote their lives. But to my purpose, as I first began, this excellent Phoebus does the best he can to please her, thinking by his kind address and by his magnificent and manliness that no one could extrude from him from her graces, but God knows none can compass in such cases the power to restrain a thing which nature has naturally implanted in a creature. Take any bird and put it in a cage, and let your heart's intention then engage to foster it tenderly with food and drink, with every dainty mess that thought can think, and keep it clean as nearly as you may, caged in a cage of gold, however gay. That bird would rather 20,000-fold be in a forest which is rough and cold, feeding on worms and on other wretched trash. It's on the watch and ready in a flash to escape out of the cage and to be gone. Freedom is what sets its heart upon. Or take a cat, nourish it well with milk and tender meat, make it a couch of silk. But let it see a mouse along the wall, and it abandons milk and meat and all. And every other dainty in the house, such is its appetite to eat a mouse. You see, in natural lust it is in possession, and appetite has banished its discretion. She-wolves are also of this baser kind. They choose the lowest wolf that they can find, the least in reputation to be mated, when the time comes to have their passions sated. These parallels are all produced to show the faithlessness of men. They do not go for women, not at all. The foul delight of men is wrecking lecherous appetite on lower things than wives, however fair, however true, however debonair. Flesh pines for the new-fangled curse upon it, and nothing with the stamp of virtue on it will pleasure us for more than a short while. This Phobos was an innocent of guile, was well deceived for all his excellent features. She had a man, one of the lowest creatures, beneath him and of little reputation, worth nothing next a man of Phobos's station. And more the harm, it happens often so, as is common source of human woe. It chanced his wife, when Phobos was away, sent for her bully. Bully, did I say? Tut, tut, that was very knavish speech. Your pardon, lords and ladies, I beseech. Wise Plato says, as those who can may read, words should be in accordance with their deed. In tales told properly, a word should bring the sense of being cousin to the thing. I'm a blunt, boisterous man, and tell you all, there is no real difference at all between lady wife of high degree, dishonest of her body if she be, and some poor wench, no difference but this, that's if so they be both should go amiss, that since the gentlewoman ranks above, she therefore will be called his lady love, whereas that other woman, being poor, will be referred to as his wench or whore. And as God knows, and so do you, dear brother, one name is just as low as in the other. Nor is there difference in my belief between a tyrant and an errant thief, or outlaw when the tyrant has no claim. They told great Alexander just the same, that just because a tyrant has the might by force of arms to murder men downright, and burn down house and home and leave all flat. They call the man a captain just for that. But since an outlaw with his little band cannot bring half such mischief on a land, or be the cause of so much harm and grief, he only earns the title of a thief. Well, I'm no scholar, and you shan't be vexed by hearing me enlarge on any text. Back to the tale I started, but more fully, when Phoebus's wife had notified her bully. They wrought their will and all its transient rage. Now the white crow, still hanging in its cage, beheld their work and never said a word. But once Lord Phoebus had returned, the bird unlocked its throat and sang, "Cuckoo, cuckoo." "What bird?" said Phoebus. "That's no song for you. Were you not wont to sing your songs so gaily that it rejoiced my heart to hear you daily in tuneful voice? Alas, what song is this?" "By God," it said, "I do not sing amiss." "Phoebus," it said, "in spite of all your worth, of all your beauty and your great gentle birth, of all your minstrelsy and singing too, and all your watching wonder, someone's hoodwinked you, has bleared your eyes, a man whose reputation, compared with yours, has little estimation. Not worth a gnat indeed, upon my life. On your own bed I saw him plumb your wife. What more do you want?" The crow in his behoof boldly informed him, giving serious proof of how his wife had done her lechery and had put shame on him and villainy. He swore he had seen it with his very eyes. Phoebus fell backward at the crow's replies. It seemed to him his sorrowful heart was breaking, setting an arrow to his bow and taking aim as he bent it in his rage to slay. He killed his wife, there is no more to say, and all his instruments of minstrelsy he broke in sorrow for it psaltery, lute, harp, guitar, and then he broke his bow and arrows, and he thus addressed the crow. "Traitor," he said, "it was thy scorpion tongue brought my confusion. Oh, my heart is wrung with grief. Why was I born? Would I were dead. O dearest wife, O gem of joy that shed so grave, so true a light upon our love. Now thou art dead and pale of face, O dove of innocence that I can swear. O speed of hand too rash to do so foul a deed. O mind confused, O thoughtless rage surprised, that smote a guiltless creature unadvised. O fainting trust, O prompting to suspect, where was your thought and wisdom to direct? O every man, beware how you are moved, never believe but what is strongly proved. Strike not too soon ere you can reason why. Be soberly advised before you try to execute your justice and assuage suspicion by the acting of your rage. Alas, a thousand in their hasty ire have been undone and brought into the mire. O sorrow, I shall kill myself for grief. And to the crow he said, O wicked thief, now I shall pay you for your lying tale. Once you sang sweetly like a nightingale, but now, false thief, your liquid song is done, and all your snowy feathers, every one, never in all your life to utter word. Vengeance shall fall upon you, traitor bird. You and your issue shall ever be black. Their sweetest music, like your own, shall crack, and you shall croak, foretelling storm and rain, in token that though your wife was slain, that and in token that through you my wife was slain. And up he started at the crow and tore the fair white feathers out that once it bore, and made it black, and took away its song and power of speech, and flung it forth headlong down to the devil, nor do I wish it back, and that's the reason why all crows are black. My lords, this is a parable conveying a moral. Pray take heed of what I'm saying. Never tell anyone in all your life that any other has enjoyed his wife, for he will hate you mortally, believe it. Solomon said, the learned so receive it. Teach every man how to refrain his tongue. But as I said, you won't find me among the scholars, but my mother, long ago, would say, my son, reflect upon the crow. My son, you hold your tongue, and hold your friends. A wicked tongue but serves the devil's ends. My son, the cross can save you from his net. My son, God in his endless goodness set a wall about the tongue of teeth and lip. Take counsel ere you speak, let nothing slip. My son, so too often by some babbling speech, many are blasted, so the scholars teach. A little wisely spoken as a rule will save a man from being cursed for fool. My son, restrain your tongue in self-denial on all occasions, save in making trial of prayers or speaking in the honor of God, the first of virtues, if you will kiss the rod. My son is to restrain and guard your tongue, so teach your children this when they are young. My son, superfluous, unthinking speech, when to say less is still within your reach, and would suffice, I would harm you, I was taught. Much chattier is the food of sinful thought. Are you aware what hasty tongues can do? Just as a sword can cut an arm in two, or slice it into bits, dear son, just so, a tongue can sever a friendship at a blow. A chatterbox is hateful to the Lord. Here Solomon is wise in his accord, with David and in his Psalms, and Seneca too. My son, say nothing when a nod will do. Feign to be deaf if you should hear the chatter of any fool that broaches dangerous matter. And add this Flemish proverb to your diet. If you will learn it, little speech, much quiet. My son, if you have said no wicked word, you need not fear you have been overheard. Whereas a wicked word, I tell you plain, once can never be recalled again. What's said is said and goes upon its way. Like it or not, repent it as you may. He is a slave to any that has heard him tell a tale, he'll suffer for that word. My son, be cautious, fashion nothing new. Be wary of tidings, whether false or true. Whether you may be with high or low, refrain your tongue and think upon the crow. This ends the Manciple's tale. This next one is entitled The Parson's Tale. Thanks for the cheering. Sure, I appreciate it. Parson's Tale, the Parson's Prologue. The story of the Manciple had ended. From the south line the sun had now descended. So low it stood, so far as I had sight, and less than 29 degrees in height. 4 o'clock it was, to make a guess, 11 foot long, or more or less. My shadow was, at that time and place, measuring feet by taking in this case, my height as 6, divided in like pattern, proportionally, and the power of Saturn began to rise with Libra just as we approached a little thorp, our referee, our host, that is, and trusted guide, who made decisions for our happy cavalcade, turned round and said, "Matters, my lords, stand thus. There is but one story lacking now to us. We've carried out my sentence and decree. We've heard a tale from each in his degree. What I ordained is nearly done, I say. God send the best of fortune, so I pray. On whomsoever is last to pour the liquor, Sir Priest, he said, are you by chance a vicar? Or else the parson? Tell the truth, I say. Don't spoil our sport, though, be you what may. Be you what you may. For every man but you has told his tale. Unbuckle now, and show what's in your bale. For honesty, to judge you by your looks, you could knit mighty matters out of books. So up and tell a story, by cock's bones, the parson said at once in level tones. You'll get no fable or romance from me, for Paul in his epistle to Timothy reproves all those who wave aside the truth for fables that are wretched and uncouth. And why unclench my fist on your behalf, that I that can scatter wheat to give you chaff? And therefore, if you care to hear my preaching, I'll offer virtuous matter, moral teaching. So if you'll hear me granting and sufficed, I would be glad, in reverence of Christ, to give you lawful pleasure, if I may. But trust me truly, I'm a southern man. I can't romance with rum rough by letter, and rhyme, God knows, I hold but little better. I won't embellish things with tricks like those, if you'll excuse me, but I speak in prose, a happy thing to knit and make an end of all our feast, Jesu in mercy send. May wit to guide your way one further stage upon that perfect glorious pilgrimage, called the Celestial to Jerusalem. These are my thoughts, if you approve of them. I'll start my tale at once, so tell me, Pat, if you agree, I can't say more than that. Nevertheless, I put this meditation in full submission to the castigation of learned men. I am not skilled in texts. I only take, as each of you expects, the moral of it, and for your protection, as I protest, submit it to correction. These words had gained assent from everyone. For that we thought it was just what should be done, to close upon a virtuous persuasion, and give him both an audience and occasion. Our host was then requested to prevail on our behalf with him to tell his tale. Our host was ready and found words for all, and said, Now, Master Parson, fair befall your reverent meditation, but I am thinking you'd better hurry, for the sun is sinking. Be fructitious and bear in what you tell, and may God send you grace to do it well. Say what you please, you will be gladly heard. So he began his sermon on the word. The Parson's Tale. The Parson's Tale is a prose sermon on the proper preparation for confession and the true nature of the 7 deadly sins. It seems therefore to lead naturally to Chaucer's retractions which follow it. On the literal plane of meaning, it seems to be offered as an appropriate ending to a pilgrimage before the saint's shrine is reached. On the allegorical plane referred to by the parson when first he called for a story, it may be deemed a preparation for a last confession to be made on that perfect glorious pilgrimage that is called the celestial to the heavenly Jerusalem. A brief summary of the parson's sermon here follows. God desires no man to perish, and there are many spiritual ways to the celestial city. One noble way is penitence, the lamenting for sin and the will to sin no more. The root of the tree of penitence is contrition. The branches and the leaves are confession. The fruit, satisfaction. The seed, grace. And the heat in that seed, the love of God. Contrition is the heart's sorrow for sin. Sin may be venial or deadly. Venial sin is for one to love Christ less than he ought. Deadly sin is to love a creature more than the Creator. Venial sin may lead to deadly sin. There are 7 deadly sins, of which the first is pride. Pride is shown in many forms: arrogance, impudence, boasting, hypocrisy, joy in having done harm, etc. It may be inward or outward. Outward pride is like a tavern sign that shows there is wine in the cellar. It may show itself in too many clothes or too few, for in the carriage of the body, as when the buttocks jut, as it were, in the hinder parts of a she-ape in the full of the moon, one can show sinful pride in retinue, in ostentatious hospitality, in one's strength, in one's gentility. The remedy for pride is humility, or true self-knowledge. Envy is sorrow at the prosperity of others and joy in their heart. It is the worst of all sins, as it sets itself against all other virtues and goodness. It is flatly against the Holy Ghost, source of bounty. Backbiting and grumbling are the devil's paternoster. The remedy for envy is to love God, your neighbor, and your enemy. Anger is the wicked will to vengeance. Anger against wickedness, however, is good. Wrath without bitterness. Wicked anger is either sudden or premeditated. The latter is the worse. Malice aforethought chases the Holy Ghost out of our soul. It is the devil's furnace, and the heat's hatred. Manslaughter, treachery, lies, flattery, scorn, discord, menaces, and curses. The remedy for anger is patience. Acicide does all tasks with vexation, slackly and without joy. It is encumbered by doing good. It restrains one from prayer. It is the hearted sin of sloth. It leads to despair. The remedy is fortitude. Avarice is a lecherous desire for earthly things, a kind of idolatry. Every florin in one's coffer is an idol. It leads to feudal extortions by lords from their villains, to fraud, to simony, gambling, theft, false witness, sacrilege. The remedy is mercy or pity, largely taken. Gluttony is an immeasurable appetite to eat or drink. Drunkenness is the horrible sepulchre of man's reason. The remedy is abstinence, temperance, and sobriety. Lechery is near cousin to gluttony. It has many forms and is the greatest sin of theft there is. for it steals body and soul. The remedy is chastity and continence, and not to eat or drink too much. When the pot boils strongly, the best remedy is to withdraw the fire. Confession must be freely willed and made in full faith. A man must only confess his own sins, and truthfully with his own mouth, not painted with subtle words. It must be considered, not a hasty act, and frequent. Satisfaction consists generally in almsgiving, penance, fasting, and bodily pains. Its fruit is endless bliss in heaven. This is Chaucer's Retractions. So that ends the Parson's Tale. The maker of this book here takes his leave. Now I beg all those that listen to this little treatise, or read it, if there be anything in it that pleases them, or they thank our Lord Jesu Christ for it, for whom proceeds all understanding and goodness, and if there be anything that displeases them, I beg them also to impute it to the fault of my want of ability, and not to my will, who would be very gladly have said better if I had had the power. For our book says all that is written for our doctrine, and that is my intention. Wherefore I beseech you meekly, for the mercy of God, to pray for me, that Christ have mercy on me, and may forgive me my sins, and especially for my translations and editings of worldly vanities. Translations, which I revoke in my retractions, as are the book of Troilus, also the book of Fame, the book of the 19 ladies, the book of the Duchess, the book of St. Valentine's Day, of the Parliament of Fowls, the Tales of Canterbury, those that tend towards sin, the book of the Lion, and many another book, if they were in my memory, and many a song and many a lecherous lay, that Christ in his great mercy forgive me for the sin. But the translation of Boethius de Constellation, and other books of saints' legends of homeliness and morality and devotion, for them I thank our Lord Jesu Christ and his blessful Mother and all the saints of heaven, beseeching them that they henceforth to my life's end send me grace to bewail my sins and to study the salvation of my soul, and to grant me the grace of true penitence, confession, and satisfaction, that I may perform them in this present life, though the benign grace of him that is King of kings and priest over all priests, who bought us with the precious blood of his heart, so that I may be one of those that at the day of judgment shall be saved, qui cum patre, etc. Here ends the book, The Canterbury Tales, compiled by Geoffrey Chaucer, on whose soul Jesus Christ have mercy. Amen. Thus ends The Canterbury Tales. Hope you all enjoyed that. So, I will have to switch over the thumbnail and a lot of the titles for this. Actually, I'll come back and start another stream, just to streamline stuff, so that way we can do some Cthulhu mythos. Anyway, we're not raiding. We'll be right back. So I want to thank you all for coming out. And I will see you next time. Hopefully in a minute. Bye for now.